G'day everyone, we're going red again today with the new Milwaukee M18 fuel half-inch high torque impact wrench. This is the friction ring model, and in this part of the world it's known as the M18 FHIW2 F12. And today we will not only be looking at this, but we will be putting it up against the predecessor, the M18 FHIW F12. The only difference being that there was a 2 missing in that number. But this isn't actually the F, this is the P. The P and the F, this F here. I'll tell you what all this means. M18, obviously, this is the 18 volt platform from Milwaukee. F for fuel, H for high torque, I for impact, W for wrench. Number 2, because this is the second one of these, and F is friction ring. This one has a P in the title because it has a pin detent rather than an friction ring. As you can see, I'll show you the friction ring in just one moment. This pops in and goes into the little hole on your sockets, helps grip and stop your socket from falling off. And the other one has a different way of doing that. So let's get that other one out of the box and see what's different between this and this. Don't you love opening tools for the first time? Oh, the excitement when you can get the little bit of cardboard out. Now, I notice on the back here, all the specifications are given, which I'll show you in a moment, with a Forge battery. So I'm gonna have to get one of those, aren't we? Conveniently, there may be one hiding in the back here, out of focus. So we'll get to that once we get to this. Okay, we've got the old school on the left, the new one here on the right. There's a few little obvious differences. But first I'm going to tell you the numbers before we get into anything else. And those numbers, I'm not sure what battery they used for this one, but this one I know is with the Forge battery there, the 6 amp hour Forge, the new battery. Anyway, this max torque of 1354 Newton meters. Now that's fastening torque. And on this one, we're looking at 1627 Newton meters or 1200 foot-pounds. That's a lot of torque. But what about the nut busting torque? 1897 Newton meters. But that pales into comparison to the 2170 Newton meters or 1600 foot-pounds with a Forge 6 amp hour battery of this new model. This one has a maximum RPM of 1800, whereas the new one is 2000. They both 2400 when it comes to impacts. And the new one is a whisker shorter. It's a little bit taller though, but it is a little bit shorter, not a lot. It says 20 millimeters on the box. It doesn't look 20 millimeters to me. It's maybe 15. But then this was probably compared to the other friction ring model, whereas this is the pin detent model, so it might be slightly different. Now, if you want to know more about all those numbers, I'm going to tell you to go watch another channel, because in this video, I'm not going to be testing the exact torque of these things. I'm not going to be undoing big truck lug nuts or anything, because I don't have a big truck nearby. I'm mostly going to probably be driving large coach bolts and lag screws, that sort of thing, into timber. We'll see if we can drive some big screws in without having to drill any holes. And we'll just see if this one is quicker than this one and whether it can push them in further than this one and do bigger bolts than this one, that sort of thing, rather than finding out the exact numbers. And if you want to know where this sits in relation to other high torque impact wrenches from Milwaukee and other companies, I'm pretty sure Torque Test channel will have already done a video on that. And if I can find said video, I'll put a shot of it just here. Let's wait and see if it pops up. If not, take a look down in the description. I will put a link down there to a video of his. Go check out his channel. If you want to know anything about impact wrenches, that's the channel to watch. If you're obsessed with Newton meter ratings and foot-pounds and all those torque numbers, then that is the channel to go and watch. I'm sure lots of you are already well aware of that channel. He's a bit like me in that he's a pair of disembodied hands. That's all he is. I've seen his hands, and yeah, that's all he is. He's just a pair of hands floating around. It's kind of creepy. So if you want to go and see if the numbers that are printed on the box are actually what this thing can do, or whether it can do more or whether it does less, go take a look at that link down there in the description. Right, what about weight? They're both fairly heavy, but to me the new one feels a little bit heavier, so let's just chuck it on some scales. So with a Forge battery, the old school Impact coming in at 3.475 kgs, just under 3.5 kgs. And the new one coming in with a Forge battery, 3.64 kgs. So we're looking at what's that, 165 grams more for the new one. Wow, you get more whack, you get more weight, it seems. What else though has this got that the old one didn't? Let's take a look at that. Looking at the bases of the two units with the old one on the left, the new one on the right, what have we got here? We've got an LED light on the old one and we've got no light on the new one. Did they get rid of the light off the new one? Why would they do such a thing? Or what's this up here? We'll have a look at that in a moment once we finish looking at the bases. This is pretty standard base. Slide your battery in there, good to go. This one has a black insert. What's going on there? So we've got some vibration dampening here. This here will stop the tool from shaking the daylights out of your poor battery. Just gives a bit of protection when you're going ugga-dugga-dugga and your battery is getting thrown about. We've got some rubbery dampers in there to hold it tightly in place, while inside this unit that is free to move around inside the actual base of the tool. So that's a nice addition, always good when companies do that. Looking at the top end, you'll see that this one does indeed have lights. In fact, it's got 3 of them, and it's got 3 of them where you want them to be, not just one down the bottom that is only going to light up at the bottom of where you're got your fastener or whatever, and so the top always ends up all dark and horrible and casts a big shadow. This sort of lighting system around the actual driving mechanism is a much nicer way to do it. So we've got 3 LEDs instead of 1 on this one. Let's go have some fun. Found a couple of these screws. We're going to start with these. They're 280 long. They've got an M10 thread on them. That's about 3/8 of an inch. We need an adapter to put them in. But once we've done those, which should be a formality, we'll then jump up to the big stuff where we won't be using an adapter. I will not be pre-drilling holes for these. 3, 2, 1. Going in's one thing, what about taking stuff out? See how we go in reverse. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so how does the high torque impact wrench compare to the top impact driver from Milwaukee, the M18 FID3 in the US? That's the... Let's give it a go. 3, 2, 1. That is one powerful impact driver. Next up, we're going for 300mm long 12mm coach screws, or if you're in the US, these will be 1 foot by 1/2 inch lag bolts. We're not going to drill any pilot holes. They're going straight into this pine. 3, 2, 1. So both of those screws sunk in until they couldn't be sunk any further, until they basically just got the tops ground off them. So they won't be coming out anytime soon. But what about this one? I put this one in quite some time ago. It looks like we could get enough grip on that one, I reckon. But I haven't been able to get it out up until now. Maybe this we'll finally be able to do it. I can't even remember what I put it in there with now. Okay, you probably haven't noticed, but about 24 hours has passed since I said I was going to go and get this damn socket because I couldn't find my socket set. But thankfully I have a wife. Yeah, so she's got this ability to look for things that us men don't have. It's also a bit colder today and a bit rainier, and a bit noisier. Anyway, I'm going to try and get this thing out, which has been stuck in there for quite some time. I can't even remember. I'm not sure if that's a 16. It's probably a 16 millimeter M16, 5/8 of an inch bolt. Might be 20 mil, 3/4 of an inch. Don't know. I'm going to try this on setting 1 and see how we go. Not happening. Setting 2. Gotcha. It's a big old bolt. Yeah, so 16 millimeter. We've taken that out. Can we drive it back in? I'm going to go and see what other bolts I've got kicking around. Next up, 16 millimeter coach screws, 200 millimeters long, or 5/8 lag bolts, 8 inches long. We're not doing any pilot holes on these, remember? This is going to be tough. In 3, 2, 1. And nut release mode. So once again, it wasn't until it was way out, because it's designed just to loosen a nut, and when a nut comes loose, like say on a wheel nut, it will be super tight and then all of a sudden very loose, and as soon as it becomes very loose, this thing will slow right down. With these coach screws, I use this 24 millimeter 1 inch bit to drive them in and out. Next up, I want to use this, which as you can see is substantially larger. We're looking at like 32 mil or something for this. I'm pretty certain I don't have an impact socket that size. I'm not even sure if I'm going to have a regular socket that's going to fit this. Let me go have a look. This is 6 inches long, 3/4 of an inch in diameter, or 150 long by about 20 millimeter diameter. And I do have a socket for it, as I suspected, though I don't have an impact socket. Impact sockets are, as the name suggests, made for impact drivers. They're designed to have constant impacts, which standard sockets are not. They're usually a bit thicker walled, and they're just designed to be a bit different, not be as brittle as one of these. So safety squints on, as they say, because this could get nasty. Sockets can shatter. Thankfully I've never actually had one shatter on me. I've sort of cracked a couple, but let's see what happens. Can either of these impacts drive this? I mean, remember, no hole. This is just got to push its way through the timber. That's quite a bit of work, and this timber is dry. It's not wet timber. Wet timber, much easier to put screws in. This has been sitting around, kicking around down the side of my house now for, I don't know, you've probably seen it a few times in videos. It's been months and months and months, at least 6 months. No, it's probably more like a year. It's been a long time. It's nice and dry. Anyway, stop yakking, tools. Just do the damn thing. Okay, let's go. Massive bloody screw. 3, 2, 1. Back out again. Bam. Well, I don't know if you can hear the weather outside, but I was just about to take the wheel nuts off a car with this thing, and it's now hammering down with rain, so it'll be a few minutes. So while we wait, I will tell you what I'm going to do and what this thing does for the likes of taking off wheel nuts, for instance. Down here we have a bunch of lights and one button here in the middle. Push the button and it cycles through our 4 lights there. So 1, 2, 3 different speeds and impacts, of course. And then the last one is the one we're about to have a look at. What's that on my finger? It is the nut release mode, or I think they call it the auto stop mode. And it works in both directions, forward and reverse. And what do you think of these new Ford batteries with the light here? No sticker. No sticker like every other battery pretty much has. It's a built-in rubbery bit here. It's much nicer, looks much nicer. Sticker can't peel off, although maybe when this wears out could be a problem there, because you won't be able to replace it like you could with a sticker. But anyway, very nice, much easier to see than the old ones as well, the lights. Anyway, sidetracked. Back to this. So if we put it on the auto stop mode, if we're going forward with this thing, we're putting a nut on, we're putting a bolt in, then 900 RPM is the maximum speed, and it will stop once it feels resistance. Once you've tightened it, bang, the tool will cut out so you don't damage anything. And in reverse, it will start at 2000 RPM, and once it releases your nut, once the pressure is taken off, it will slow right down, drop down to 750 RPM, just so you don't shoot the damn thing off and send your nut flying across the room. And as soon as it stops raining, I'm going to show you that. But while it is still raining, let's have another look at anything else that's different between this and the old one. This here, did I mention this? We've got a big rubber bumper on the front, which we don't have on the old school model. We've got a spot down here for a hook, can be put on either side, stick it on your belt. Now I noticed that the pin detent version of this particular model has a ring on the top that this one does not come with. I don't know why they put it only on that one and not on this one, but hey, there you go. Speaking of pin and ring, let's just talk about that a bit more, seeing as it's pouring down out there. Which one do you like? Which one do I like? Well, I prefer the friction ring these days. There's a few different options when it comes to putting sockets on. So you've got the friction ring, which, as the name suggests, hold your sockets on via friction. You've got the pin detent, which, as you can see, sticks up the top there. You can push that in. So with some sockets you'll be able to just slide it over the top, but you may have to push it in. So this pin is designed to line up with this hole here, and you put that in, the pin goes into the hole, locks it in pretty damn tight. If I'm using this style of impact wrench with the pin, and I'm only doing a few things, I don't line it up with the hole, because once you line it up with a hole, you need to push something in there to get it out. You need to get a nail or some sort of pin to push that in so you can get this off. Whereas if you stick it around a different way so it's not lining up with the hole, then chances are you can push it on, use it, and then pull it back off again because the pin will be held in. So if you're only doing 1 or 2 things, that works fine. If you're using the same socket all day, every day sort of thing, then the pin is a way better option than the friction ring. So with the friction ring, even though they're nice and easy to push on, like so, they do also come off much easier. So sometimes you'll be working away and you'll pull the tool away and your socket will be left stuck on your nut or bolt, whereas that's much less likely to happen with this option. But if you're changing sockets all day, doing different sizes, then this is much easier. There are also ones where you can put pins all the way through, and so if you have a socket like this that has a hole all the way through it and this ring area here, so lots of impact sockets have this, you put a pin through there and a rubber O-ring around there just to hold the pin in place, and there's a hole through the, neither of these ones have it, but a hole through the actual anvil there, and that way it is well and truly secure, stuck on there, ain't going anywhere. It sounds like the rain might have eased off now. Let's go see if I can get this shot. Right, nut off. See that? Just did a couple of impacts, started off real quick, then slowed right down, and now we'll put it back on. As soon as it started impacting, cut out. Stops you from damaging anything. Off. Right, so there we have it. New versus old. done. Could definitely tell when you first start putting in screws like I was doing, that this takes off a lot quicker to begin with. It certainly feels a lot faster. Get that initial hit. This sort of seems to impact quicker, you know, starts impacting before this one. This one can drive them in a bit deeper first, but I'll have to wait and see until I've done the editing and stuff, because yeah, it's a little hard to tell sometimes when you're trying all these different things exactly what everything's doing. Prefer the lights on this one, easier to see than they are on this one. When one's lit up, you can sort of see the one next to it sort of half lit up. It's not the greatest. These are far better with the individual LEDs on here. So yeah, it's a good powerful tool, the sort of thing that, like I say, I wouldn't use for mechanical stuff too much, more timber, putting in concrete bolts. I was going to do a test with concrete bolts, but it's hard to get it even with the different steel and rocks and shit that can be in concrete. Yeah, I'd need to do quite a lot to prove one way or the other whether one was better than the other or not. And so, yeah, didn't bother with that one. But as I said earlier, if you want to see more, check out my old mate Talk down in the Talk Test channel down there. And I'll stick a link at the end of this video if I can as well. And there will be more videos on this battery and the new supercharger. If I haven't already put that video out, then it will be out soon. And if I have already put it out, it'll be up in the top corner and down in the description as well. Let me know down in the comments if you got one of these, what you think of them, and also what you think of these. What's your favorite high torque impact wrench? Which ones have you got? Which one you think hits hardest? And I will see you on another review in a few more days. Cheers, guys.